It's a night of flickering lanterns, masked faces, and whispering winds. Children laugh in the dark. Shadows move behind carved pumpkins. We call it Halloween, a night for candy and costumes, for ghosts and ghouls. But beneath the fun, beneath the plastic masks and glowing decorations, lies a story that began more than 2,000 years ago. A story of fear and faith, of death and renewal, and of how one ancient fire festival became a modern night of wonder. This is the history of Halloween, from Samhain to trick-or-treat. If you like history, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all our content. Now, time to get spooky. Long before Halloween was a word, the Celtic peoples of Ireland, Scotland, and Wales celebrated a festival called Samhain. For them it marked the turning of the year, the end of the harvest, and the beginning of winter's darkness. To the Celts, time moved in cycles. The year was divided by 4 great festivals, but Samhain stood apart. It was the threshold, the moment when the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin. Fires burned bright across the hills, warding off whatever might drift through the open veil. People wore disguises made from animal skins, not to amuse, but to protect. They offered food and drink to wandering spirits and honored their ancestors with rituals now long forgotten. For one night, the dead were free to roam. Some came as blessings, others brought mischief or malice. Samhain was not about evil, it was about respect. It was a recognition that life and death are not opposites, but part of the same turning wheel. By the 1st century CE, the Roman Empire had conquered most of Celtic Europe. As so often happens, cultures blended and holidays merged. The Romans honored their own dead through Feralia, a day to remember ancestors, and Pomona, the goddess of fruit and abundance. Her symbol was the apple, a sign of plenty and fertility. When Pomona's feast joined with Samhain, the apple became a token of divination and play. Long after the empire fell, young people would still bob for apples, hoping to see whom they might marry. It's one of the oldest traditions to survive the centuries, a Roman seed that took root in Celtic soil. As Christianity spread through Europe, old pagan customs did not vanish, they adapted. The Church sought to guide rather than destroy them. In the 7th century, Pope Boniface IV dedicated a day to honor all martyrs, All Saints' Day, later known as All Hallows Day. Its eve, All Hallows Eve, fell on October 31st. Over time, the names blurred together: All Hallows Eve, Hallowe'en, Halloween. A day later came All Souls' Day, devoted to praying for every departed soul. Together, the 3 days became known as Hallowtide, a time when heaven, earth, and purgatory were closest. But even as the Church sanctified the season, people still whispered of spirits abroad, of candles burning to guide the lost, of disguises worn to confuse the restless dead. Christian faith and Celtic belief coexisted in uneasy harmony, creating something half sacred, half fearful, the foundation of Halloween as we know it. Through the Middle Ages, autumn remained the season of remembrance and fear. The harvest was in, the nights grew long, and every creak of the wind hinted at unseen company. People prayed for their ancestors and feared the damned. Bonfires blazed across the countryside to ward off evil. From these customs grew souling, a practice where the poor or children went door to door, offering prayers for the dead in exchange for small cakes. They called them soul cakes, round little breads marked with a cross. Each cake eaten meant one soul released from purgatory. It was a solemn act, but it also brought laughter and community. By the late Middle Ages, the tradition evolved into guising, wearing masks and costumes, reciting verses, and performing tricks in exchange for treats. Souling and guising were the roots of modern trick-or-treating, born not of greed, but of faith and fear, a compact between the living and the lost. Across the ocean, the early Puritans of New England wanted none of it. To them, Halloween was a relic of superstition. They banned such observances, favoring prayer and work over ritual and festivity. But in Catholic colonies like Maryland, All Hallows customs lingered quietly. It wasn't until the 19th century, when millions of Irish and Scottish immigrants arrived in America, that Halloween found new soil. They brought with them their stories, songs, and superstitions. Among these was the legend of Stingy Jack, a trickster who fooled the devil and was cursed to wander the earth with only a hollowed-out turnip for a lantern. In America, where pumpkins were plentiful, the jack-o'-lantern was born, brighter, larger, and soon iconic. At first, Halloween in America was a night of mischief. Young men overturned outhouses, set fires, and tied gates shut. Communities eventually decided to channel that energy into parades, parties, and games. By the early 20th century, Halloween had become less about ghosts and more about gathering, a civic celebration of all. By the 1920s, Halloween was firmly American. Towns hosted costume contests, schools held dances. Children went door to door shouting, "Trick or treat!" The phrase likely originated as a warning. Give us a treat or we'll play a prank. But over time, the trick faded and the candy took center stage. In the 1950s, suburban growth and baby booms transformed Halloween into the family-friendly holiday we know today. Candy companies, costume makers, and Hollywood studios all joined in. What began as a night of fire and fear became an industry worth billions. Yet, even as plastic skeletons replaced real ones, the spirit of Halloween remained. A fascination with death, a flirtation with fear, a brief chance to dance with darkness before winter comes. Halloween's journey didn't end in America. By the late 20th century, its imagery, pumpkins, ghosts, and costume children, had spread across the globe through movies, television, and pop culture. In Mexico, it met Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. Though often conflated, the two are different. Dia de los Muertos is a celebration of remembrance. Families build colorful altars, share food, and welcome the spirits of loved ones home. It's rooted in Aztec tradition and Catholic faith, not Celtic fire. But both holidays share a common heartbeat, the belief that the boundary between life and death is not unbreakable. Across Europe, variations survive too. In Italy, candles burn on All Souls' Day. In the Philippines, families picnic in cemeteries. In parts of Asia, the Hungry Ghost Festival honors ancestors in midsummer. In Britain, Guy Fawkes Night briefly overshadowed Halloween, but the old customs never vanished completely. The modern world has a way of blending everything, a patchwork of old rituals reborn under electric light. Nearly every piece of Halloween imagery carries ancient roots. The jack-o'-lantern recalls the wandering dead and fire offerings of Samhain. Masks echo the guises once worn to fool spirits. Witches, once symbols of folk knowledge and healing, became figures of fear during Europe's witch trials. Ghosts, black cats, and bats all found their place in a festival that blurred night and superstition. Even the colors, orange for harvest, black for night, tell the same story. Life fading into death, light swallowed by darkness, only to return again when the sun rises. The 20th century also made Halloween a stage for imagination. Films like Dracula, Frankenstein, and The Wolfman in the 1930s brought ancient monsters to new life. Decades later, John Carpenter's Halloween in 1978 gave the holiday a new icon: the silent, masked killer. From The Nightmare Before Christmas to Hocus Pocus, the season became a genre all its own, a place where fear could safely play. The modern Halloween blends fun and fright, a night to explore mortality without consequence, to laugh in the face of the dark. At its heart, Halloween has always been about transformation. In ancient times, it was the shift from harvest to winter. In Christian Europe, the passage from life to death. In modern America, the change from ordinary to extraordinary. For one night, anyone can be anything. Underneath the costumes and candy, Halloween speaks to something timeless: our need to understand death, to honor those who came before us, and to confront what we fear with laughter and light. When we carve a pumpkin, we echo the bonfires of Samhain. When we don a mask, we echo the guises of the dead. When we open our doors to strangers in the night, we echo the old faith that sharing might keep evil at bay. Halloween is not a foreign invention, nor merely a children's game. It's an ancient mirror, reflecting every age's attempt to make peace with the dark. From Celtic hillsides lit with sacred fires to suburban porches lined with pumpkins, Halloween's path is a story of survival, a ritual reborn in every generation. It has changed names, costumes, and meanings, yet the essence endures. The thinning of the veil, the dance between the living and the dead, the flicker of light in the heart of darkness. As you walk beneath the October moon, listen carefully. You might hear the echo of ancient drums, the whisper of ancestors, the laughter of those who once feared what we now celebrate. Because on Halloween, past and present meet, and for one night, the world remembers what it's always known: that the dead are never far away, and that in facing the darkness, we keep the light alive. Thanks for watching. If you found this to be one of the best videos you've ever seen in your life, click the like and subscribe buttons. Do it before you go out and trick or treat, because if you don't, I will track you down and steal your candy. What? You think I'm joking? So help me. Oh man, that's it. I have some calls to make. Oh, and see you next week.